Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, friends. Wish you all have a happy day. And the subject today, what we are going to talk is very, very important, considering the present economic crisis due to the COVID-19, as well as the whole world is changing in various ways. I hope, friends, this topic, the idea of probably the topic today for the discussion is that instead of you depend on searching for an employment, motivate you and also encourage you to become self-entrepreneur. And as our Prime Minister always telling that, self-reliance. That is most important for everyone, not only for the country, for every individual and every family need to have a self-reliance. So if we want to be self-reliant, then we need to take care of all kind of economical activities, overall what is required, so that we need not depend on anybody. And so we can be more on self-reliant, even though we cannot be 100% self-reliant, but we can, as much as possible, we should depend on ourselves rather than depending on the external forces. Friends, I tell you that what is the startups? These are all simple terminology, we use it. But ultimately, this is a development of an entrepreneurship. The difference between startups and the others are that there are some existing organizations which are doing business. How an existing, the new people will develop, that is what most important for us. Now, we will have the two kind of discussion, the whole session is that why we should do that, what is startups, why we should do that, when we can do that, and what way it will benefit to us. This is how we will structure the whole discussion today. Let us understand what is startups, because there is generally what we discuss is a different, how the government define the startups. An entity shall be considered as a startups up to period of 10 years from the date of your starting or registration, if it is incorporated as a private limited company or as a registered a partnership firm or as a proprietor or as a limited liability. These are all the various structure of an organization which we are going to discuss in detail in the coming slides. So how you are considered as a startup? Startup means a new venture. If you and me, after completing our graduation and post-graduation, if you would like to start a manufacturing activities, if you want to start a business, when we start as a new one, we are called as startups. Okay, I hope that is the simplest way to understand what is startup. And any new venture can be called as a startups. So the government determined to encourage more people to start their own industry rather than searching for an employment, so that the advantages for the individual to become an entrepreneur, instead of getting employed, he will be an employer to create an employment for many people. Instead of I go for a job, I become a job seeker rather than job provider. So we provide more jobs rather than job seeking. So government would like to encourage the youth, especially people like you, to start various kind of venture so that you become more of self-reliant and you help the economy to grow. You become wealth creator. You provide an employment to various people. That is the idea behind it. We are going to look into that. So simply, and who will be called as a startups? Any organization, any business venture which we started from the date of registration till 10 years, you are considered as a startup because you are to be treated for an eligible for certain kind of a concession and other facilities provided by the government, which are not applicable to other sectors other than the startups. That is the purpose of providing this kind of a definition. So turnover of the entity for any of the financial year since unincorporated has not exceeded 100 crore rupees. Friends, I hope that most of you understand what you mean by turnover. When we start a business, either we do buy or sell or a trading activities or a manufacturing activities, then when we are a manufacturing industry, how much we produce and what is the value of the produce we are selling to the market, either to the customer or B2B or a B2C, that kind of an amount, the total billing value in a year. So this is called a turnover of the business. You get my points, friends. I am making as simplest so that I'm not using a high level of understanding. I am trying to simplify so that you all understand the certain financial terminology. So here we are using the word called turnover. Turnover means it is one of the eligibility criteria to be coming under startups. If any trading or a manufacturing company from the incorporation, if it is not exceeded during any of the financial years, for a 10 years, if it is not exceeding 100 crore, still you come under the startups. I hope that you get my point, friends. Follow me. So entity working towards innovation, development or improvement of product, process or services, or if it is scalable business model with a high potential of employment generations or wealth creation, provided that an entity formed by splitting up or reconstruction of existing business shall not be considered as a startup. Friends, I'm just trying to explain what is startup first. Then I will go further details into that. So as I told you in my first slide, the startup should be considered for a period of 10 years as a startup and organization from the date of incorporation, number one. Number two, that any of the financial year, the turnover should not exceed 100 crore. You get my points, friends. So the idea is that, that it's just to motivate you to innovate and develop a product or improve the existing product of the services or otherwise of processes. And if it is a scalable business model with a high potential of employment generations or a wealth creations. This should be the criteria, this should be the idea behind startups. But one thing what government clearly explaining is that suppose you have an existing business, from that if you are divesting or if you are splitting or if you are dividing into a separate company, that company is not considered as a startups. You get my point, friends. The reason is that because government is providing a lot of concession to the startups. So the existing people, well developed and the already business doing people should not come and grab those opportunities which are meant for the new entrepreneurs. That is the idea behind it. Okay. Okay, now we know what is the startups. First, how to start a startups? What is startups? Friends, for example, now after completing our studies, we have an idea to start a business. So that kind of an idea, once you get an idea, that idea need to be shaped up in a systematic way to start an industry or a service organization. So what we should do if we think that if you want to do a startup or if you want to start a business, first we have to do that. We have to prepare thoroughly by ourselves. This is what most important, friends. We need to have a proper analytical, proper understanding, proper conceiving the idea, what we are going to do. That is what most important if you want to start any business. Not that start the business, then think what to do. Or not that simply everybody is doing business, let me also do some business because the bank is giving loan and government is giving some concession or subsidy. So let me start some business. It's not like that. So friends, when we wanted to do a startup, start a business, First step, we need to have thorough understanding about the what business we want to do. We need to many time, because I have come across, that I have an experience of more than 45 years, and I have come across a lot of businesses, the success businesses and also the failure businesses. Everyone, either in our class or in outside, people talk about mostly on the success stories. We talk about Einstein, we talk about Abdul Kalam, we talk about so many people, Tata, we talk about Ambani, we talk about Narayana Murthy, we talk about Ajit Prinji. Like that, we talk always about the people who are successful in their business. Okay, we need to know that what is the reason for their success. At the same time, I wish to emphasize is that we need to understand why some of the business have failed, why many of the entrepreneurs have failed, why they could not be succeeded in their attempt. That is most important rather than understanding this, the reason for success. Instead of that, we need to understand the reasons for failure, so that we need to learn a lot from the failures rather than from the success. So the one reason what I find, I'm going to explain to you in the coming slides also, that because we don't get prepared ourselves, we don't think thoroughly about the business, what we want to do that. For example, I am a commerce graduate, I am an economic graduate. I do not know what is chemistry. I do not know what is physics. I do not know what is all kind of science. I am basically from the beginning, from my school days, I brought up in an art subject. And I studied economics, commerce, sociology, so on. And I never do not know what is algebra, what is geometry, what is chemistry, what is physics, what is engineering, what is electronics. I do not know. Suppose if somebody gives me 100 crore rupees and asks me to start a chemical industry, then since because I am getting a money of 100 crore, I should not venture into it because I do not know that business. Unless I know that business, I cannot manage that business. You understand, friends? So I should be able to understand. That is the reason the main importance to everyone who would like to start a business should have thorough idea and prepare about that business, right? Number two is that, okay, I have now decided to start a particular type of business. I have decided what product I am going to do that. Okay, after thorough my analysis, thorough homework, I have prepared first step, I decided to start a business. This is a type of business I am going to start. Okay, number two, we have to do the research on that particular area. What do you mean by the research? We need to understand whether this particular product is a long-term product, if life essential product, is this product will have a consistency demanded product, and where this product can be sold, and where is this market, and what is the size of the market, how much competitors are there, am I the only person in that particular business, or how many people are doing that kind of business? Suppose if I enter into that business, can I able to penetrate into the market and make myself presence in the market? So we need to do a thorough research about the potential depth of the market. We need to understand depth of the market. What do you mean by depth of the market? The depth of the market is nothing but the size of the market and volume of the market and how much value we can do that. And unless otherwise, if there is some markets, for example, some of them are niche markets where there is no volume at all, very specialized product. I tell you that, give you an example that probably most of you know that the brand valuation. And you know that, for example, now you go for a ramen, which is a men brand, a garments for men. then you need to know what is the depth of that market, then how you are positioning yourself in that market. You want to go for a whole volume game market, or you want to go a value based market. That kind of in-depth analysis is a must. Then only we can position ourselves in the particular market. Assuming that, okay, now you would like to manufacture the mobile phone handset. You think that this is one of the high growing industry. Every person now today have a mobile phone, and also not only have the mobile phone, they frequently change depending on the model and the features, depending on the technology availability. Probably you may notice only 3 or 4 players in this market: Samsung, Nokia, somebody. These are all the players in the market. The depth of the market is worldwide. And then where you want to position yourself. Now, for example, Apple, they position the market only on the camera segment. Vivo, they position on the camera segment. Samsung, they position themselves in an Android market, where more calls and things. So during that, in that particular part of business, how you want to position yourself, you want to be a leader of the market, you want a secondary player of the market. So you need to understand the demographic of your potential clientele, which clientele you would like to target yourself. For example, you want to start a hotel industry. Like, for example, Taj is there, ITC Hotel is there, Meridian is there. So they position at a 5-star style clientele. Whereas there is a ordinary restaurant are there, Annapurna restaurants are there, or Sankita restaurant is there. Like that, there are restaurants which would like to position themselves in the market for a common segment rather than the rich segment. So we have to thoroughly study about what kind of business we would like to do. Then we should do the research on the particular product, on the field, how we can do that. And also we need to understand the demographic of your potential client, which client you would like to target. Am I targeting a rich top class client, or am I want to reach out the bottom of the client, or I want to have the mix of client, which kind of segment I want to position myself. Otherwise, you will get confused in the market that you will not be able to target to whom you are targeting. You understand, friends, when we do the business, we have to think that which kind of category of, that is the reason I put a demographic of your potential clientele, where my clientele are coming from. I want to go into the common product, I want to go for a specialized product, or I want to go for a superior premium product, where I want to position myself. Then only you can focus on your brand culture, your focus on the particular clientele. This is more important. So you have to, what you have to do, the next step you should do that, you should refine your ideas. After doing that, just refine your ideas and make it crisp. Okay, this is what my business idea, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you need to write a business plan. Plan it before the execution. That is what most important. Many of the things get failed because we don't plan it properly, so that because of that, the execution becomes improper. Unless the planning is perfect, the execution cannot be perfect. So if you want to have a perfect execution, then you need to have a perfect planning. That is what most important. Plan first, then execute next. So the third one is that you need to assess your finances. This is most important, friends. We should estimate how much funds are required. When you think of funds and finance for the business, for a startup, you need to have, of course, that most of you maybe studied in the finance, about the organizational setup, about the business project report, everything. So the finance can be divided into 2 parts. One is that a long-term finance and for a short-term finance. What do you mean by long-term? What do you mean by short-term finance? The long-term finance, which meant for a land, building, machinery, plant, so on. The infrastructure, what you need to create to do the production. That is all your long-term funds required. So you need to do a proper financial estimation, assessment, how much fund you require, which is going to be invested for a long-term purposes, which cannot be taken back immediately. So that long-term funds requirement is one. Number two is that short-term requirements. What do you mean by that? It is for the rotation of the business, purchase of raw material, processing, salary, overheads, rent, and hoping, all these things is called short-term. This will be realized after production and selling the product and realization of the sold amount. That is called a short-term. So you need to have a perfect assessment, then how much business funds are required. Otherwise, you know that you will get trapped after starting. Then what you want to, another point, what you have to do on the startup is that what kind of legal structure you would like to have it. What do you mean by legal structure, friends? I hope that probably during your graduations and you would have studied that a business organization, a type of business organization. Normally, if I do myself on my own as a single person, that's called a proprietary business. Suppose I jointly do with one or two of my friends or my family members, they are all called partners, then I have a partnership company. Then if I do with more people, then I can register as a company called a limited company, maybe a private limited or a public limited company. That is coming under the, each one coming under different kind of a legal act. One is that proprietary company, it's a small enterprises. Another is a partnership which coming under the Partnership Act. The third one coming under the Companies Act 2013, which provides a private limited and public limited. The next one is that limited liability partnership, that's called LLP. So then, or I may start as a NGO or as a society or as a trust. So each one have coming under different kind of an act and rules. So we need to be clear at the time of startup, whether I want to start a proprietary company or a partnership company or a private limited company or a public limited company or an LLP or a single man company or a trust or a society. Each one have got a different compliances. What do you mean by that? It's not just you start a business, you do as you like it. Not only for the purpose of tax return, for a purpose of other disclosure, we need to follow the compliances as per the respective act and rules. You get my point, friends. I hope that you follow me. So if you are registering as a company, then you are coming under the regulation and compliances as prescribed under the Indian Companies Act 2013. So there are procedures, you have to file return, you have to follow certain things and payment of taxes, procedures, so many things. So you cannot have a confusion on these because after the start of the business. So as I told you that first to refine your ideas, make a business plan, assess your finance, then what kind of structure you want to have it. That is most important. Then only you can go with registration process. That is most important. Now the next step when you want to do the startup is that you have to register. Once you decide your legal structure, business structure, based on that, you have to go for a registration with the respective authorities. Then you are coming for execution. You need to have a team of people who can execute your business plan. That is more important. Sometimes you know that your proposal may be good, your business concept is very good, you have sufficient finances, your structure is excellent. Unfortunately, if you do not have a right team to develop the product, to market the product, to position the product, then you may not succeed. So that is the building of the team, the human resources is more important. Every step is important, but ultimately the human resources, the talent, what you are pooling as a team is more important for the success of your business, friends. Then you have to brand yourself. Today, that is more important because you are identified as a brand today. The brand gives you a lot of value, a lot of marketability, a lot of access. For example, when you want to use the toothpaste, you remember immediately Colgate, you remember close up like that. Similarly, immediately ready-made foods, you remember noodles, Maggie. You have a brand. There are a lot of brands like that. Lot of popular brands. You go with the most of the people today go with the brands. If you want a cosmetics, you want a makeup, you want eatables, you want to go for industrial brand, you want to go for anything. Today the brand is more important so that the brand is visible in the market. So these are all the steps you need to follow that. So once you make your business plan, and then we have to do how to secure appropriate funding. That is most important. Where the funds will come from. You get my point, friends. For example, you think that you need a 1 crore rupees to start a business. This 1 crore, are you going to invest by yourself? Or I am going to contribute something from me and I am going to take a borrowings. Okay, now the another step, okay, I decided to invest of even though my project cost is 1 crore rupees, you get my points. Out of which 25 lakhs I am contributing as my capital to the business. The 75 lakhs I am interested to borrow money from the bank or from financial institution or from any other sources, even a capital market, either by way of an equity or by way of debt. Again, I would like to explain here one more point is that when you have the 1 crore is the project cost, out of which you have to divide what is the long term, what is the short term, as I explained to you earlier. Now, next to what you have to decide is that how much should be the equity, how much should be the debt. I hope that you understand what is an equity, what is a debt. An equity is a contribution of the capital contribution by the owners of the company. The debt is borrowing from others which are repayable, which have a cost, like an interest, like that. You know that then we need to appropriate the funding and where to source this fund. Can I go to a nationalized bank, or can I go to a private banks, or can I go to a financial institution, or can I go to a venture fund, like that. So that is the most important aspect. Once the concept business plan is ready, organization structure is ready, then funding, the source of funding, we need to do that. And as I told you earlier that you need to have right people to execute your job. And where to location is the most also important. Some kind of business, the location advantages is a more important. For example, if you want to go for a processing industry, sugar industry, chemical processing industry, which requires a large amount of water, then you need to location your industry where the water sources are available. Similarly, you want to go for a storage plant. You want to go for some kind of a plant where, for example, solar. You want to go for a solar, then you need to go for a place where you have a more sunlight in the maximum number of days in a year instead of going to a Kodaikanal and Ooty. You understand, friends, the location, and also you need today that digitalization is a more important. That your physical location is one thing, and how you locate yourself in your website where anybody can access to you, anybody can see you, anybody can understand you sitting in a remote. See how the technology is changed. And a year ago, I would like to come to your colleges to address on this topic. Today, after the COVID-19, things have changed drastically that you are sitting some point, I am sitting in somewhere else, still we could be able to interact. So this is the change. This is a digitalization. So the same way, we need to build up today a strong and efficient and excellent website so that the customer can access to you, understand you, what you are, what kind of produce you are doing, where you are located, all these things. Then the next success point is that you need to have a marketing expert who can market your product or your services. And we need to build ultimately the customer base is more important. The customer base is not a base of switching loyalty to now and then. You need to create a customer base who are loyal with us, who are stay with us for a longer period, not that use one time, get away from this kind of a brand. There should be a strong, loyal customer base should be built up. How a customer base can be built up, friends? See, you need to have, first of all, a quality product or a services. People should talk about your quality, either product or services, and also talk about your ethical way of business. That is more important, friends. If you want to successful and remain successful in the business, is that how you are ethical in your business, how you are consistently following your ethical practice in the business is more important than then your customer base can be built up over a period of time. That is more important. And also that we cannot always, the pessimist or optimist. We have to prepare for anything, because see, have we ever expected from the last March till now these colleges and schools and educational institutions are locked and we are sitting on a digitalized conference and webinar? We need to prepare for anything, even though we never anticipated till last year, and this has become a reality. In 1 month, 2 months, almost we are sitting on 6 months now under lockout, and still the schools are not open. Still we do not know that when they will open. So we need to prepare for anything so that we should not get upset. We should not get, get discouraged. Okay, it happens. Then how to face it? So we need to prepare for that. So friend, now let us come to a little bit on the recognition and on the concession side. Under the startup action plan, startup that meet the definition as prescribed under GSR notification are eligible to apply for recognition under the program. The startup have to provide support document at the time of an application. Why we should be done that? See, because once you do a startup, the government would like to handhold you and take you along with that. So they want to give more encouragement, more concession, more grants. So that is the reason you need to get a recognition from the government, because so that you are eligible for certain kind of concessions. You understand, friends? And so that, that this all, then government is extending some kind of an exemptions to you. What is an exemption they are giving? Getting the recognition may apply for a tax exemption under section 81 AC of the Income Tax Act. Post getting clearance for tax exemption, the startup can avail tax holiday for 3 consecutive financial years out of its first 10 years since incorporation. You get my point, friends? So the government would like to encourage, because in a normal size of company, for example, my business, I have to pay 35% of the tax on my earnings. I'll have to pay to the government by way of income tax. So when the existing business, they can sustain, they can bear that kind of burden. Whereas government would like to encourage the new entrepreneurs. People like you, when you start, they want given a tax exemption for a period of 3 years, so that you need not worry about so much money outflow by way of tax on your earnings. You get my point, you get my friends. So that you are eligible, once you get registered, you have to get exemptions and apply for recognition. And you have to, what is your eligibility? See, it should be, that is the reason it should be, the recognition should be a recognized startup. So once you have done the registration either under a partnership or under LLP or under a Companies Act, you have to apply to the particular department as per the notification, so that you all get recognized. Once you are recognized, you are eligible for this kind of a concession. You get my point, friends? Only a private limited or a limited liability partnership is eligible for tax exemption under 81 AC. The startup should have been incorporated after the 1st April of 2016. These are all certain eligible to avail this tax concession. Friends, the tax exemption under section 56 of the income tax, because there are various sections provides various kind of concession for various activities. So the section wise I am giving you to understand, you need not complicate, just these are all to have your knowledge. Post getting recognition, startup may apply for angel tax exemption. The eligibility criteria for tax exemption under section 56 of the income tax. The entity should be a DP IIT recognized startup, an aggregate amount of paid up share capital and premium of the startup of the proposed issue shares of any does not exceed 25 crore. Here I am bringing capital market also into the system, because the government want to encourage, when you want to go for a more capital, you can go for either a face value of the share, or you can charge a premium. You can go for proposed issue of shares from the capital market by way of an IPO, but it should not exceed 25 crore. Either by way of shares as well as the premium should not exceed, then only you are eligible for this kind of an exemptions under the Act. So this is, besides the central government, there are a lot of state government which also encourages this kind of startups, and they notified various dates by various state government, and there would not be any minimum turnover required from micro, small enterprises and startups in a public procurement process. What do you mean by that, friends? See, the government is one of the largest customer in the business. Government procures a lot of things, public sector undertaking, government-owned undertaking, government itself directly. They are the largest consumers, largest buyer from the market. As a startup companies, you can participate in supplying to the government, so that as a micro company or a small company or a medium-sized company, then there is a specialized chances for this kind of startup. All state department and agencies will additionally relax condition of prior experience with respect to startups in all public procurement, subject to meeting of quality and technical specification. For example, when the government floats a tender for procuring something or participating in their supply, there is a standard eligibility criteria. Because a company which you would like to supply, for example, a stationery supply, the government is the largest consumer of stationeries. They float a tender. We want to buy 100 crore worth of stationery during this financial year. Anybody can participate, subject to, if you have a 10 years experience, you have so much manufacturing capacity, if you follow green standard, if you want to eco-friendly, and this is a statistics, if you're not employed a child labor, then only you are eligible to participate in this particular tender. But whereas in the case of startups, you know that they exempt this kind of things. If you, without even experience, without having those standards conditions, you are eligible to participate in the tender. Only thing is, without compromising the quality and technical specification. That's what. Otherwise, rest of the conditions are exempted for the startups. So that these are all mainly to encourage the people to do that. So what is the objective? Why we have to do all these things? Why government gives a tax exemption and financial assistance, so many things. It's to promote growth and help Indian economy. Many benefits are being given to entrepreneurs establishing startups. The main objective is that there should be a growth for the economy. Not only growth for the economy, when the economy growing means the individuals are growing. The individuals get self-dependent, Atma-Nirbhar, and self-dependent. And then I create a wealth. I provide more employment. I don't go for a job. So I am a job provider rather than a job seeker, so that the country will flourish. The country's economic growth happens, then everybody's income grow. Once the income grow per person or per family, their standard of living, comforts of living will go up. This high standard of living, high economic activities make the country rich. Every person rich. They are accessible to all kind of luxuries and wealth. That is the main objectives of creating a wealth, friends. So the simple process, the government of India has launched a mobile app and website for easy registration for startups. Anyone interested in setting up a startup can fill up a simple form on the website and upload certain documents. So the entire process is completely online, so that the process is very simple if you want to start up. Okay, there is no necessary that you go to somebody, some consultant, do all these things, pay for that. The government tries to make the process as simple as possible to start up any venture. And then the government also provides a list of facilities of patents and trademark. They will provide high quality intellectual property rights services, including fast examination of patent at a lower fees. The government will bear all facilitator fees and the startup will bear only statutory fees. So they will enjoy almost 80% reduction in cost of filling the patent right. I hope that you understand what is the patent rights and trademark, because when you establish your brand, you need to get registered the trademark and patent so that nobody copy that, nobody will take over that your technology. So that it's always better to have a trademark registration and patent registration, which is a costly process normally. But for the startups, that government is giving you a lot of concessions so that you will do in a simplest way. And easy access to the funds, because that is the main problem for every startups. Even my final slide, I am going to highlight that one of the reasons for failure is that the availability of funds for the startups. Almost 10,000 crore fund is set up by a government to provide funds to the startup as a venture capital. The government is also giving guarantee to the lenders to encourage banks and other financial institutions for providing a venture capital. So that anyone need not worry about if you have innovative ideas, if you have a conviction, if you have an excellent business plan, that funds should not be a hurdle. That is the reason government is giving that kind of an assistance to make every startup to be successful. And another way the government gives is that 3-year holiday period for any startup, so that the income tax burden will not be the cost in your way. So you can be a cheaper than already an existing industry, so that your product can be cheaper, because that kind of income tax is available with you, so that more funds at your hand, so that your cost of production will be coming down. The startup can apply for a government tenders. As I told you earlier, they are exempted from the prior experience and turnover criteria applicable for a normal companies answering the government tender, so that you get special treatment rather than the other competitors. So R&D facilities, 7 new research park will be set up to provide facilities to start up in the R&D sector. What do you mean by that, friends? A certain product, you need to have a consistent upgradation of product. So you require research and development facilities. If individually, if you would like to go for that, very difficult. The cost wise is very huge. So the government set up in a research park wherein you can avail those research benefit to improve and develop your product, adopt that kind of a technology, so that it does not cost you, because without R&D, you cannot upgrade your facilities and product quality, product changes, especially the electronic world, and the technology changing every day. And yesterday's technology has become obsolete today. So that you have consistently, if you do not modify yourself and adopt the technology, then you will be out of the market. So there is R&D facilities and no time consuming compliances. Compliances is really toughest challenge for everyone. Today, most of the people not doing business are getting out of the corporate business, structured business, because of various compliances. You have to file this return, that return, half-yearly return, quarterly return, monthly return, and yearly return, and you have to file within such and such date, otherwise you will have a penalty. So many compliances under various acts. So this has been simplified for the startups to save time and money. Startups shall be allowed to self-certify compliances through the startup mobile apps with the 9 labor and 3 environment labor laws. See, for example, there are compliances which need to have certified by a chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, merchant banker, certified person. That lot of professionals have to certify. Instead of that, self-certification, so that it makes more easier for the startups. Tax saving for the investor. The people investing their capital gains in the venture fund set up by the government will get exemption from capital gains. And this will help startups to attract more investors. If I do investment in the startups, so that I am exempted from capital gains, thereby, encourage people to participate more in the startups venture. And after this plan, the startups will have an option to choose between the venture capital, giving them liberty to choose their investors. You can choose your investor to add more people to invest in your company. You have the choice. There is no clutches on you by the venture capital or any other organization. You have a choices to do that. So friends, you have to think that whenever we want to do anything, please understand that, and it's easy to enter into any business, but we have to always think that how can I exit from this? Is there any route of exit? 90%, even I can say 95% of the people who start business, they never think that, can I exit? Then people say, why you talk like this? Bad sentiment. I am here to remain in the business. Why should I think of an exit? No. We have to always think that any business, we need to know how to enter, and also we should know how to exit. That is the most important point. Many of them, majority of them, they do not think that how to exit. That is the reason, that when particular liability accrues, when I do not know how to run the business because my loss is mounting up, how to exit, how to get out of the business. Okay, I'm losing beyond my capacity. I cannot bear that. Can I run the industry or can I close down the industry? Okay, if I close down, what will be my worst? Then I need to know how to exit from the business. That is more important. It's not only entry. Entry anybody can do. Entry is easier, but need to understand what is an exit plan. In the case of startup, it can close its business within 90 days from the date of application of winding up, because when you start a company, winding up is again a big problem, and we have to think of all these things. Okay, and meet other entrepreneurs. Government is also meeting arrangements, proposed to hold 2 startup fest annually, both nationally and internationally, to enable the various stakeholders of a startup to meet. This will provide huge networking opportunity, friends. Friends, socialization, meeting my counterpart, meeting competitors, meeting similar line of activities, more important. In the case of startup, government itself is an organizing a startup festival annually, biannually, so that all meet together, they can share their ideas, they can share the experience to understand what is happening outside the world, so that I can understand better, I can refine better. So that's a huge opportunity the government is creating. You should know that why we talk about the medium, small, and micro, small, and medium enterprises. That I shown one of the show in the beginning of my speech, that the finance minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, was addressing along with the chairman of Indian Bank. Today the corporate minister, the finance minister, whole government is focusing on MSMEs. The reason is that, that I do not know how many of you have watched that show, that because it was started by the chairman of Indian Bank, and it was about to address, because since our time getting late, I thought that we start our schedule. And I will send the link, still you can watch it. There are a lot of MSME programs going on in this country. The venture capital is doing, banks are doing, financial institutions are doing, because the reason is that it contributes 28.9% of the GDP. Imagine, friends, almost nearly 30% of the GDP is contributed by MSMEs. So that is the reason when the government takes policy on the taxation or a concession or a funding or various rules and regulations, they have to keep in mind that the MSME should grow and it should flourish. So then only the economy will grow, because it's a very, very important to take care of these activities, so that the sustainability of the growth in the economy will happen. And the number of MSMEs are almost 63.3 million MSMEs. This is of January statistics. I do not know the latest. This was January 2020. This is the number of units are functioning. Let us understand, friends, because I told you always that, because people always talk about the success, learning from success. But I feel that it is more important to learn from failures rather than success. Of course, success is essential. I'm not telling that. It is required. But why people fails, we need to understand, so that I will not do that kind of a mistake. That, or the problem, I will not get into that. That is what is more important. So I try to highlight that Most of the MSMEs or a startups or a new entrepreneur, any new business getting failed because of lack of funding. Initially, we estimate some kind of fund because when you start doing more, more funds required. Then I do not have that kind of source of money to invest again because I have limited my capital. Then when the banks are ready to give funds based on my investment in that particular business, beyond that, they are also not ready to provide. Then if I go for a private funding, which is a cost of funding is high, even cost of funding is very high, but people may not ready to take the risk of venturing with me because something goes wrong. Why should I take that kind of a risk? So the funding is more problem in every new startups. That is the reason few of them are like successful, and most of them problematic because of the fund. The next reason what we found is that there is a lack of confidence by in ourselves. When I start business, I am the founder of the business. I myself do not have a confidence that, yes, I will succeed. I will succeed. I am going to succeed. If not today, tomorrow. So I need to have a consistent efforts and then put all my efforts to become a successful, because sometimes I lose my confidence because when I face problems, when I get more problems, when I get failure of funds, when I get loss, I lose my confidence. So that is another reason for failure. Then that we just to start a business just for lack of business without innovating business model. We have to think of innovative business model. Take the case of Paytm. Paytm was the recent startups. Like that, there are a lot of startups, Flipkart, online business. There are a lot of innovative business models. But that sometimes we do conventional. There is no lack of innovation in the business. Because today, the innovation is the life of every business. We have to highly innovate, highly update, highly digitalized. See, you understand that Nokia was, 10 years ago, one of the leader of the mobile market. Today, you do not know where they are. And so, because unless you become innovative, because they failed to adopt Android technology, that because they had been out of the market. Like that, there are a lot of companies which are failed because they are not adopting the innovative technology. And we have seen a lot of either automobile industry or in a mechanical engineering or in a chemical or a garments or eatables or anything, you find that there are a lot of big companies who are 20 years ago, today nowhere. Even you do not know where they are today, because the reason is that they do not have innovative models. They don't adopt the technology. And sometimes, some markets are also saturated. We cannot enter into a field where already there is a saturations. That is the reason I told you in my first slide is that you need to do a proper research and you need in-depth research to understand the market potential and also the potential clientele. That's what I told you in my first slides. So this when it is saturated, we should not enter into this market. You get my point, friends. So this, friends, and with this, that I have just highlighted this is a very big subject. Each one. Furthermore, I would like to tell you, friends, this is not my friend is starting something, I will also start something. Don't copy from somebody else. It is his idea may be different, your idea may be different. And try to be innovative. That you should study. You should know that technology instead of depending on somebody else. Friends, that the Indian economy is positioning in the world in a high growth path. I tell you that I'm not telling that it's going to grow. Sometimes I say that it's going to explode. The Indian economy is going to explode in a bigger way. The India is going to play a very, very leading role in the whole of the universe. So every one of us have a plenty of an opportunity. Every one of you have an opportunity. Please don't think that what kind of job I will get. Please think that what kind of business I am going to do. What kind of innovation I am going to do. You have the capacity. You have the talent. You have the ability. Only thing